Chapter 1. The Public Shame. The laughter started softly, like the crackle of dry leaves before a storm. And then it grew. Elena stood in the great hall, her hands trembling against the silver goblet she hadn't dared to sip from. The feast should have been a celebration of the harvest moon, yet every eye in Silverfang found its way back to her, to the mate who couldn't give her Beta an heir. Rowan's voice cut through the music. Maybe the goddess just forgot you, Elena. His grin dripped with cruelty. Or maybe she took one look and changed her mind. The crowd erupted again. Even Celine, her own twin, the mirror of her face but none of her heart, hid a smirk behind a jeweled hand. Her chest ached. The sound seemed to echo inside her skull, because laughter hurt worse than claws ever could. She wanted to shrink, to disappear, but Rowan wasn't done. Go on, my Barren Luna. Toast the pack. Tell them how you plan to bless us this year. Oh, wait, you can't. Her wolf whimpered inside, pressing against the cage of her ribs. Don't cry, Elena told herself. Don't give them what they want. And yet, tears blurred her sight. The scent of roasted venison turned bitter. The torches hissed as though mocking her. She turned away, her voice breaking. I'm done being your joke. Then leave the table, Rowan sneered. You've no purpose here. So she did. And just like that, the hall's laughter followed her into the night, sharp, merciless, and unforgettable. Still, as the doors shut behind her, a whisper rode the cold wind. The moon sees all. Chapter 2. The Betrayal Behind Closed Doors. By the time she reached their quarters, the moon hung low, pale and watchful. She pushed open the door, then froze. What followed was silence so thick it nearly drowned her heartbeat. Celine's perfume filled the room first, sweet jasmine and betrayal. Then came the sight that stole her breath. Her twin sprawled across Rowan's bed, his hand tangled in her hair, both of them too lost in pleasure to notice the doorway. Elena's world tilted. Her body moved on instinct. Rowan? Celine gasped, clutching the sheet, but Rowan only laughed, rolling onto his elbow. Oh, don't look so shocked, love. You've given me nothing. She at least gives me something. Her throat closed. She's my sister. And you're my disappointment. The words hit harder than any strike. In the span of a breath, something inside her cracked. Selena's eyes gleamed, pity disguised as triumph. He deserves an heir, Elena. You should be happy for him. Happy. The words sliced through her. Before either could speak again, she stumbled backward. The air felt heavy, poisonous. Her mark burned against her skin, a cruel reminder of the bond that chained her to this monster. Down the corridor, wolves whispered as she passed, their murmurs slicing into her ears. Barren, cursed, unfit. She reached the courtyard, trembling. The wind howled through the pines like the goddess herself mourning. Truth be told, she didn't know what scared her more, the emptiness in her heart, or the thought that she might live another day in this cage. And so, beneath the red moon, Elena made her choice. Chapter 3. The Vanishing. The night air bit at her skin as she ran, barefoot, cloakless, free for the first time, and bleeding inside. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was madness. She didn't care. With every step she took beyond Silverfang's borders, the mark on her neck pulsed weaker, as if the bond itself were breaking. Behind her, the pack's territory faded into shadow. Ahead, the forest waited, black and endless. Branches clawed at her arms. Her breath came in gasps. Yet she kept running because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering his voice. The wind carried distant howls. Rogues, perhaps. Or the moon warning her to turn back. But she couldn't. Not this time. She stumbled over roots, falling to her knees in the frost. The earth was cold, but it felt honest. Nothing like the lies she'd lived in. Her whisper fogged the air. If this is what you want, goddess, take me. In that moment, her tears hit the snow like drops of glass. The forest held its breath. A growl echoed somewhere beyond the trees, Deep, feral, unfamiliar. Elena froze. The sound rumbled again, closer this time, vibrating through the ground beneath her palms. Her heart raced. Her instincts screamed run. But she didn't. Something inside her stilled, as if pulled by a string. Then, between one heartbeat and the next, the growl changed. Lower, almost mournful. The night shifted, and just like that, everything changed. The storm began to rise. Lightning flashed through the clouds, painting the woods in silver light. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw movement. Something massive watching her from between the trees. Her breath caught, her wolf stirred. Whatever it wasn't there to hurt her. It was there to stop her from ending her story before it began. The moment passed, but its presence lingered, a promise in the dark. When dawn finally crept over the horizon, the pack would discover the truth. Elena, the beta's Barren mate, was gone. And the world beyond their borders had just claimed her for something far greater. Chapter 4. The River of Endings. The storm didn't feel like weather, it felt like punishment. Wind howled through the barren pines, slashing against Elena's skin as if the world itself wanted to erase her. The snow came sideways, stinging her cheeks, blinding her eyes. Still she kept walking, her legs trembling, her breath misting in short, broken bursts. Every step hurt, every thought echoed the same unbearable truth. There was nothing left. No love, no home, no reason to keep breathing. She whispered into the storm, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry, Moon. I tried." The snow swallowed her words. By the time she reached the river, her fingers were numb, her wolf silent. The water wasn't frozen solid yet. Jagged sheets of ice drifted over the black current, glinting like shattered glass under the storm's flickering light. Her heart felt the same, fractured, fragile, ready to sink. She took a step closer. The cold bit into her bare feet. The wind screamed in her ears, "Jump, jump." Elena closed her eyes. Maybe this was the only way to silence the laughter that haunted her. Maybe it was fate. Her voice cracked. "Forgive me, Mother Moon. I can't." But then, something changed. Between one heartbeat and the next, the forest went still. The wind stopped. Even the river's hiss quieted, as though the world itself held its breath. And then she heard it. A growl. Low. Powerful. Close. Her eyes snapped open. Shadows moved beyond the riverbank. A shape, massive, black, and primal, emerged from the storm. Its eyes glowed silver white, piercing through the snow like twin moons. Her breath caught. Her wolf stirred weakly inside her chest, whispering a single word. Alpha. Before she could move, the growl deepened, a sound that made the air itself tremble. Something inside her shifted, a thread of instinct pulling her back from the edge. The storm roared again, wind thrashing her hair across her face. But it wasn't just wind, it was warning. Whatever creature stood in the blizzard wasn't letting her die tonight. And just like that, everything changed. Chapter 5. The Beast Who Saved Her. The growl came again, closer this time, vibrating through the earth. Elena spun toward the sound, her pulse hammering. Shapes moved in the mist, 3 of them, slinking low, red eyes glinting. Rogues. Her heart stuttered. They circled her like sharks scenting blood, their growls threading through the storm. She stumbled back toward the riverbank, her hands trembling. "Stay back!" Her voice broke on the wind. But they didn't stop. The first wolf lunged. Without warning, another shape burst from the trees, a blur of darkness and fury. A snarl tore through the air, followed by the sound of bones snapping. The black wolf was massive, larger than any she'd ever seen. His fur shimmered like ink beneath moonlight, muscles rippling as he ripped through the rogues with terrifying precision. One by one, their bodies fell into the snow, staining it crimson. Elena stood frozen. She couldn't breathe, couldn't blink. the beast turned toward her. His eyes, goddess, those eyes, burned silver, cold yet alive. She felt them in her bones. Her wolf whimpered inside, not in fear, but recognition. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other through the storm. And then the world tilted. Her knees buckled, her vision blurred. The adrenaline drained from her body, leaving only exhaustion. He moved, swift, fluid, a shadow and a savior in one breath. Strong arms lifted her from the snow. His heat was staggering against her frozen skin. A low rumble vibrated through his chest, half growl, half concern. She tried to speak, but her voice failed. Her last thought before darkness took her was of those eyes, silver, ancient, and heartbreakingly familiar. Maybe it was the goddess after all. Maybe she hadn't abandoned her. Because of that, Elena's story didn't end by the river. It began again, in the arms of the beast who refused to let her die. Chapter 6. The Alpha's Shadow Warmth. That was the first thing she felt. Not just physical warmth, but something deeper, safety maybe. It had been so long since she'd felt it that it almost hurt to recognize it. When her eyes opened, the world was stone and firelight. She was lying beneath thick furs, her wounds cleaned, her body wrapped in a soft linen shift. The scent in the room, pine, smoke, and something darker, filled her lungs. Dominant, male, alpha. She tried to sit up, but pain lanced through her ribs. A deep voice spoke from the shadows. "Don't move." Her pulse spiked. She turned. The man stepping into the firelight looked carved from the wild itself. Broad shoulders, long black hair tied back loosely, a scar running from his jaw to his throat. His eyes. The same silver she'd seen in the storm. He crossed the room with the unhurried grace of someone used to command. "You're lucky I was hunting the rogues that night." Her voice trembled. "You saved me." He nodded once. "You would have been dead within minutes." She swallowed. "Why?" His gaze lingered on her face, unreadable. "Because I don't let things die in my territory without reason." His words were cold, but something in his tone wasn't. It was protective, controlled, like he didn't know how to soften it anymore. As the silence stretched, she noticed the crest on his tunic, a black wolf's head encircled by silver thorns. Her breath hitched. "You're Alpha Darius, of Blackridge." He inclined his head. "You know my name." "Everyone does." She hesitated. "They say you're cursed." A faint smirk ghosted across his lips. "Do they?" She wished she could read his thoughts. The room felt charged, the air thicker than before. He turned toward the fire, speaking more to the flames than to her. "Rest. You're safe here." Safe. The word didn't fit her world anymore, yet the way he said it, steady, certain, made her want to believe it. Before he could leave, she whispered, "Why do you smell like the storm?" Darius paused at the door. "Because," he said quietly, "I was born in one." And then he was gone. The door shut softly, but the echo lingered in her chest. Elena lay back against the furs, her pulse refusing to slow. The fire crackled, shadows dancing along the walls like living things. She closed her eyes. For the first time in forever, her dreams weren't filled with laughter or shame. They were filled with silver eyes, and the storm that refused to let her die. Chapter 7. The Silent Fortress. The Blackridge stronghold wasn't a home. It was a fortress of stone and silence. Wind moaned through the narrow windows. Torches hissed against damp walls. Every sound echoed, reminding Elena that she didn't belong here. Yet she was alive, and that alone felt like a miracle. Each morning she woke to the scent of steel. Warriors trained in the courtyard, their movements sharp, disciplined. No laughter, no cruelty, only duty. It was strange and safe. Darius kept his distance. She saw him sometimes from the balcony, commanding, unreadable, speaking few words to anyone. Still, whenever her gaze brushed his, something in her chest tightened. He had saved her life, and yet she didn't know why. Because of that question, sleep rarely found her. That night, she sat near the fire in her borrowed chamber, tracing the edge of her old mark. It no longer burned, but it still pulsed faintly. A ghost of pain. She whispered to herself, "You're free, so why does it still hurt?" Without warning, the door opened. Darius stood there, the firelight gilding his scars. "You should be resting," he said. Her pulse stumbled. "I can't." He stepped closer, the air shifting with his presence. "You're healing fast." "It's what wolves do," she murmured. He studied her face, his silver eyes unreadable. Not when their will to live is gone. Her breath caught. "Then maybe your healer's work is better than you think." He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. Barely. "Eat, sleep. The walls will hold." And just like that, he was gone again, leaving only the echo of his voice and the scent of rain. Still, she couldn't stop thinking of him. Because of that one sentence, "the walls will hold," she slept soundly for the first time since leaving Silverfang. Chapter 8. The Night Fire Hunt. Morning broke gray and cold. Snowflakes drifted across the courtyard like ash. The world seemed calm until the alarm bell sounded. Wolves shouted from the ramparts. Rogues. Elena barely had time to rise before the door burst open. "Stay here," a guard barked. But she couldn't. Her instincts pulled her toward the window, where she saw them, dark shapes tearing through the gates. Then came a flash of silver fur. Darius. He moved like a storm unleashed, his massive black wolf form colliding with the attackers in a blur of claws and teeth. Every strike was controlled, brutal, precise. Her heart raced. She'd never seen power like this, terrifying, yet magnificent. A rogue broke past the guards and leapt toward the tower steps. Without thinking, Elena ran. By the time she reached the hallway, chaos reigned. The rogue turned on her, jaws wide, then a snarl split the air. Darius hit the creature mid-lunge, slamming it into the wall with enough force to crack stone. Blood sprayed. The rogue went still. For a moment, everything froze. Darius's wolf turned to her, fur bristling, breath heaving, silver eyes locked on hers, molten with adrenaline. Her world narrowed. The bond pulsed. She couldn't move. Her breath trembled as he stepped closer, lowering his head until his muzzle brushed her wrist. A low rumble vibrated from his chest, protective, possessive, primal. Her fingers brushed his fur before she realized what she was doing. "You're bleeding," she whispered. He huffed, shifting back before her eyes in a shimmer of moonlight. When the transformation ended, he stood naked except for the blood streaked across his chest. She turned away, heat flooding her cheeks. "You didn't have to." "I did," he interrupted, voice rough. "They came for you." Her gaze flicked to him again. The firelight from the burning courtyard framed his silhouette, muscle, scar, power. But what held her wasn't his strength. It was the way he looked at her, as if her life mattered. He stepped closer, his hand brushing her shoulder. "Next time, stay inside." Her voice shook. "And if I had?" He paused, eyes softening. "I would have found you anyway." And just like that, everything inside her shifted again. That night, she dreamt not of storms, but of silver eyes watching her from the dark, waiting. Chapter 9. The moon between them days passed. The fortress healed. So did she. Elena tried to help where she could, carrying food, tending wounds, offering quiet words to frightened Omegas. The Blackridge wolves began to smile at her, unsure but grateful. Then came the fever. The pups in the nursery fell ill all at once, burning hot, trembling under their blankets. The healers were stretched thin. Without thinking, Elena stepped forward. "I can help." The head healer frowned. "You're not of this pack." "I was born a wolf," she said softly. "That's enough." For hours she worked, mixing herbs, wiping foreheads, whispering comfort. Her wolf stirred with every cry, guiding her hands. By dusk, the fever broke. When she left the nursery, exhausted and covered in sweat, Darius was waiting outside. He leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You disobeyed my orders." She blinked. "To do what? Care?" His jaw tightened. "You could have fallen sick yourself." "But I didn't." She stepped closer, and neither did they. Their eyes met. The tension between them crackled like fire under moonlight. He exhaled slowly. "You don't know when to stand down, do you?" "Neither do you," she said, and for the first time, he smiled. It was small, fleeting, but real. The silence stretched. Their breaths mingled in the cold air. And then, without another word, he reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered a heartbeat too long. Her pulse stuttered. Her chest ached in that terrifying, wonderful way she thought she'd forgotten. Outside, the moon climbed high, painting them both in silver. Between one breath and the next, something ancient stirred. The pull of fate, unmistakable and alive. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. Because in that quiet, beneath the watchful moon, both of them felt it, the bond that had waded through storms and sorrow to find them. Chapter 10. The Fainting Spell. The morning started like any other. Quiet, cold, and smelling faintly of rain and smoke. Elena moved through the corridors of Blackridge Castle, balancing a basket of herbs and linens. The fortress had grown familiar now. The creak of the staircases, the steady rhythm of the guards changing posts, the distant clang of steel against steel from the training yard. Life, for once, felt steady. Still, there were moments she couldn't explain. Strange flutterings under her ribs, exhaustion that pulled at her bones, dizziness that came and went like waves. She blamed the lingering shock of winter, but her wolf stirred uneasily each time. By the time she reached the lower hall, the world swayed. "Elena?" one of the healers called. "Are you all right?" She opened her mouth to reply, but the walls tilted. The air grew heavy. Her heart raced without reason. Then, darkness. The basket hit the ground with a soft thud, herbs scattering across the floor like falling leaves. She didn't feel herself fall, only the weightless drifting before the world went silent. When she woke, the light was soft and golden, filtering through a stone window. Someone sat beside her bed. Darius. He looked different, less composed, tension shadowing his jaw. His hand rested near hers on the bed, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from it. "You fainted?" he said, voice low but steady. She blinked. "How long was I out?" "Long enough to make the entire fortress panic." Despite the worry etched across his face, his tone carried a trace of humor. It made her chest ache. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You have nothing to be sorry for." His silver eyes darkened slightly. "The healer's coming. She insists on running tests." Before she could protest, the door creaked open. The elder healer entered, a small, sharp-eyed woman with hands that glowed faintly with lunar power. She pressed her palms against Elena's wrist, muttering something under her breath. The energy in the air shifted. Elena's wolf perked, restless. Darius straightened, his expression unreadable, but his aura thrummed with tension. The healer's brow furrowed, then lifted. Slowly, her lips parted in astonishment. "Alpha," she whispered. "You should sit down." And just like that, the world began to tilt again. But this time, not from weakness. From the weight of something monumental rising in the silence. Chapter 11. The Goddess's Proof. The healer's words came out as a breath, trembling with reverence. "You're with child." For a moment, Elena thought she'd misheard. Her ears rang. The room blurred at the edges. "With what?" she whispered. The healer smiled softly, tears in her eyes. Life, Luna. You carry life. Elena's hands went still on the sheets. Her heart thundered. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible under the goddess's moon, the healer said gently. Your energy hums with creation. Strong, steady, blessed. Elena turned toward Darius. He hadn't moved. He stood there, every muscle drawn tight, as though afraid even to breathe. His eyes searched her face, disbelief warring with awe. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. You're certain? The healer nodded. Beyond question. Silence fell, a heavy, holy kind of silence. Elena's throat closed, tears welling before she could stop them. I was told I couldn't, that I'd never... Her voice broke. Darius stepped forward, kneeling beside her. The sight of the fierce alpha bowing before her made her chest ache in ways she couldn't describe. He took her trembling hand. Who told you what the moon could or couldn't do? Her breath shuddered out. Everyone. His thumb brushed her wrist. Then they were wrong. The simplicity of his words undid her. A sob slipped free, not of pain, but of something far deeper. Release, gratitude, wonder. Maybe, she whispered, maybe I was never broken. He met her eyes, silver bright. No, you were never broken, Elena. You were chosen. The healer bowed quietly and slipped from the room, leaving them in a quiet that pulsed with new meaning. Elena's fingers drifted to her stomach, a whisper of awe beneath her breath. The moon blessed me. Darius's gaze softened. No, he said, voice low and reverent. She blessed us. In that moment, the bond between them shifted, something ancient recognizing itself. As the firelight flickered, Elena realized the truth. Her life hadn't ended in the storm. It had only just begun. Chapter 12. The Alpha's Vow. Snow fell outside again, soft and endless. But the cold no longer reached her. For days after the revelation, Blackridge whispered with awe. Wolves she barely knew bowed when she passed. Even the wind seemed to hum differently through the stone halls. Elena should have been frightened. Instead, she felt still, centered, grounded in something larger than herself. She found Darius one evening on the fortress balcony, his cloak whipping in the wind, eyes fixed on the horizon. You shouldn't be out in the cold, he said without turning. And you shouldn't hide from me, she replied, stepping closer. He exhaled through his nose, a plume of mist dissolving into the air. I'm not hiding, I'm thinking. About? His jaw tightened. About what it means. You. Here. This child. Are you angry? He turned to her then, and the look in his eyes stole her breath. Angry? He shook his head. Elena, I fought wars for less. I would fight the world for this. Her chest tightened. He dropped to one knee, placing a hand gently against her stomach. His voice roughened to a vow. I swear before the moon and my ancestors, no harm will come to you or the life you carry. I will burn the earth if I must. Tears blurred her vision. You don't need to promise that. Yes, he said quietly. I do, because promises keep monsters like me human. She knelt beside him, resting her hand over his. Then let this promise bind us both. For a long time they stayed like that, two broken souls remade by fate, kneeling under falling snow. But destiny has sharp ears. By dawn, rumors had already spread beyond Blackridge. Messengers whispered across territories. The Barren mate of Silverfang's beta now carried the Alpha's heirs. And while the moon smiled upon them, not everyone saw it as a blessing. Far beyond the mountains, in the ruins of Silverfang, a bitter laugh echoed. Rowan had heard the news. His pride burned hotter than the fire that had once humiliated her. And as vengeance stirred in his chest, the goddess's miracle prepared to face its first storm. Chapter 13. Rumors of the Fallen Pack. The morning came heavy with whispers. Messengers rode through the gates of Blackridge, their cloaks soaked from snowmelt, their eyes shadowed with worry. By the time Elena reached the war room, Darius was already there, his presence commanding even the silence. One of the scouts bowed low. Alpha, Silverfang bleeds. Their borders are fractured. They're Beta. He rules like a wolf without a heart. Elena's breath caught. Rowan. Her fingers trembled against the edge of the doorframe. Darius's gaze flicked to her, then back to the scout. Explain. Alpha Kale of Eastcrest withdrew his alliance, the scout said quickly. The trade routes are collapsing. Packs flee their territory. Rumors say Rowan's arrogance started it. He seeks alliance with you, Blackridge, claims he'll bend knee for peace. Elena's heartbeat roared in her ears. The idea of him kneeling, of him asking for anything, felt unreal. For a moment, she almost pitied him. Then she remembered the laughter, the humiliation, the years stolen from her. She stepped forward. You'll answer him? Darius turned, his silver eyes meeting hers. Diplomacy, he said evenly. For now. It's better to have his truth before I decide his fate. Her lips parted, but no words came. The air between them thrummed, filled with everything left unsaid. Eventually, she whispered, Then let me go with you. He frowned. You're not strong enough for a journey like that. I'm carrying your child, she said softly, her voice steady now. Not your weakness. The room went still. The warriors lowered their eyes in respect. Darius's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in reluctant pride. He exhaled slowly. This isn't revenge, Elena. I know, she said. It's closure. He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded once. Prepare to ride. That night, as she packed her cloak and the healer's herbs, her reflection in the mirror stopped her. The woman staring back wasn't the broken Luna Silverfang mocked. She was marked by fire and survival, her body strong, her heart calm, her soul whole. Still, as the wind howled outside, Elena pressed a hand to her belly and whispered, Please, goddess, give me strength to face the ghosts I left behind. Chapter 14. The Journey Home. The road to Silverfang cut through forests of frost and memory. For 3 days, the caravan moved beneath a steel-gray sky. Wolves rode ahead, cloaked in furs, while Darius rode beside her in silence, steady, unshakable. Each mile was a wound reopening. Elena's mind kept drifting backward, to the sound of laughter, to the torchlight that had once burned her pride to ash. But this time, the pain didn't hollow her out. It reminded her of how far she'd come. Eventually, Darius broke the silence. You're quiet. She glanced at him, snowflakes catching in his dark hair. Just remembering. Do you regret coming? She hesitated. No, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't afraid. His gaze softened. Fear doesn't mean weakness, Elena. It means you care about what you're walking toward. Her heart fluttered. And what am I walking toward? He looked ahead, voice low. Truth. The word lingered between them like mist. By nightfall, they camped near the river that marked Silverfang's border. The water ran black beneath the moon, whispering secrets to the stones. Darius tended the fire while Elena watched the flames dance, their light painting his face in golden shadow. Do you think they'll hate me? She asked quietly. He looked up. If they do, it will only show how blind they still are. His tone was calm, certain. That certainty anchored her. She smiled faintly. You speak like the goddess herself. Maybe she borrowed my voice, he murmured, half a smile ghosting his lips. The warmth between them deepened, slow, steady, inevitable. Before she lay down to rest, Darius reached for her hand. His palm was rough, his touch gentle. No matter what happens tomorrow, he said, remember who you are now. She nodded, fingers curling around his. Who am I? She whispered. He leaned closer, voice like thunder wrapped in silk. Mine. Her breath caught. The word wasn't a command. It was a vow. That night she slept without nightmares. Chapter 15. The Court of Eyes. By dawn, Silverfang rose from the horizon like a wound reopened. The gates that had once shut her out now opened before her with groaning defiance. The guards, wolves she once knew by name, bowed stiffly, their eyes wide, unsure whether to fear or honor her. Elena rode between them, her cloak billowing, her belly rounded with life beneath it. The whispers began instantly. Is that? It can't be. The Barren one? But then silence fell as Darius appeared beside her, his presence like thunderclouds rolling over the packlands. At the heart of the courtyard, Rowan waited. He looked smaller than she remembered, leaner, colder, his arrogance cracked, but not yet gone. Celine stood behind him, her beauty dulled by bitterness. Elena, Rowan said, voice dripping false warmth. You're alive. She met his gaze, calm and steady. Disappointed? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Rowan's smile tightened. You've brought company. An alpha, Darius said smoothly, dismounting. And my Luna. Gasps spread like wildfire. Every wolf in the court went still. Rowan's face drained of color. His voice dropped. Luna? Darius stepped closer, towering over him. The moon herself has spoken. The woman you called Barren carries my heirs. Elena's heart pounded, but she held Rowan's stare. The whispers started again, but this time they weren't cruel. They were reverent. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, proud. Every gaze that had once mocked her now bowed instead. Celine's lips parted, trembling with disbelief. It's not possible. Elena smiled softly. Neither was surviving you. The words hung like judgment in the air. Rowan's jaw clenched, anger flashing, but Darius's growl silenced him instantly, a low, dangerous rumble that shook the stones beneath their feet. At that moment, the moon broke through the clouds, casting silver light over Elena. It bathed her face, her rounded belly, and the crest of Blackridge stitched over her cloak. And as the court watched, every doubt crumbled. The Barren she-wolf had returned, not broken, not shamed, but crowned by fate itself. Chapter 16. The Gathering of Alphas. The Grand Council Hall of Silverfang smelled of old wood, arrogance, and fear. Elena could feel it thrumming through the air the moment she stepped inside. The long table stretched like a battlefield. One side filled with trembling elders, the other with wolves from Blackridge, silent and watchful. At the head sat Rowan. He wore the smug smile of a man who believed charm could cover rot. Ah, he said, voice dripping mockery. The prodigal Luna returns, dragging her alpha with her. Elena met his gaze without flinching. I returned to end what you began. Murmurs rippled through the room. Rowan leaned back in his chair. End? You mean embarrass yourself again? I see the moon goddess gave you new tricks. How generous of her to offer pity instead of children. The laughter that followed was brief, cut short by a sound that shook the room. A growl. Deep. Dangerous. Darius rose from his chair, silver eyes blazing. His voice filled the hall like thunder. You will not speak to my Luna that way. The room froze. Even Rowan's smirk faltered. Darius stepped forward, every inch the alpha king he was born to be. The woman you shamed now carries my heirs. The goddess herself has judged you and found you wanting. Rowan tried to recover, sneering. And you believe her? She was always fragile, always delusional. You'll learn. She lies to survive. Elena felt something inside her stir. Anger, sharp and clean as lightning. She didn't move, didn't speak, not yet. The time would come. But Darius's growl deepened. The torches flickered. The very walls seemed to vibrate. Careful, Beta. You stand on sacred ground. The moon watches her chosen. Rowan laughed shakily. You think you can threaten me in my own hall? No, Darius said, voice low. I don't threaten. I promise. The weight of it silenced everyone. Even so, the tension in the room crackled like a drawn bowstring. One word more, one insult too far, and it would break. Elena's hand went to her belly, grounding herself. The warmth beneath her palm reminded her what this was about. Not revenge, but truth. And truth she knew was already burning through the lies. Chapter 17. The Sisters' Confession. The council reconvened at sunset, shadows crawling across the floor like nervous spirits. Celine sat near the back, her beauty faded beneath sleepless eyes and guilt. She had avoided Elena all day, but now, when Darius's presence filled the hall again, she couldn't hide. The elders began their questions. Is it true, one asked coldly, that you betrayed your sister's mating bond with the beta? Celine's lips trembled. It was complicated. Elena's voice, calm and cutting, carried across the room. No, it was cruel. Celine's head snapped up, eyes wide. You laughed when they called me Barren, Elena said. You stood by while he broke me. I didn't. You did, Darius interrupted, his tone like a blade. And now you will tell the truth before the moon and every wolf gathered. Celine's hands clenched. Tears welled, but no one looked away. Finally, her voice cracked. He made me do it. Rowan said if I helped him, he'd make me Luna. He said Elena was weak, that the pack needed strength. I believed him. Her words hit the air like stones in water, rippling outward, shattering what little illusion remained. The elders leaned forward, murmuring among themselves. Celine's shoulders shook. He used me, and when the pack started falling apart, he blamed her. Said she cursed him. But she didn't. The confession broke her. She fell to her knees, sobbing. She didn't deserve it. Elena's throat tightened. For years, she had dreamed of hearing those words. Yet now there was no satisfaction, only grief for what had been lost. Rowan's voice sliced through the silence. Lies, all of it. Darius's hand slammed down on the table, the crack echoing like thunder. Enough! He turned to the elders. You have your truth. The goddess has her proof. Let judgment fall where it belongs. Celine covered her face. Rowan's fury burned red, his pride collapsing in on itself. Elena looked at them both, the ghosts of the life that almost destroyed her, and felt nothing but peace. Because of that peace, she finally stood taller. The truth had done what revenge never could. It set her free. Chapter 18. The Lunas stand. The hall was silent. Every wolf, every elder, every rival alpha, all waited for the final word. Elena stepped forward. The glow from the moon filtered through the high windows, casting her in silver light. She felt the power of it ripple under her skin, her wolf steady and proud. Her voice, when it came, was soft, but it carried like a prayer. I once believed the moon had cursed me, that she looked at me and turned away. She paused, glancing at Rowan. But I see now, she was saving me. No one moved. Even the air stilled. She freed me from a bond built on cruelty, Elena continued, her hand resting on her rounded belly. She let me break so I could rebuild into something stronger. And in doing so, she led me here, to life, to truth, to love. Her gaze swept the room, landing on the faces that had once mocked her. You called me Barren. Yet I stand before you carrying the future of two packs. Tell me, was that a curse? Or was that destiny? Whispers rose, awed, reverent. Darius stepped to her side, silent but powerful. His presence the shadow of her strength, not consuming it, but amplifying it. Elena lifted her chin. The moon never cursed me. She freed me from you. The words fell like judgment, and every wolf in the hall bowed. Rowan tried to speak, but his voice failed. Celine sobbed quietly, face buried in her hands. The elders murmured blessings. Then, as if the goddess herself sealed the moment, moonlight poured through the ceiling's cracked dome, washing Elena in radiant silver. Her mark shimmered faintly, reborn. Not the Beta's claim, but the Alpha's bond. The crowd knelt. Darius's hand brushed hers, reverent and trembling. "My Luna," he murmured. She turned toward him, her voice breaking into a smile. "No, Darius. Our Luna." The hall erupted in a howl of unity, a sound that shook the heavens. And for the first time since the night she ran into the storm, Elena felt it fully. Not just redemption, but belonging. Chapter 19. The Stripping of Titles. Dawn came blood-red over Silverfang. The fires from the council hall had long gone out, but their smoke still clung to the sky, a smoldering memory of judgment. The courtyard brimmed with wolves, their faces pale with expectation. Elena stood beside Darius on the high steps. The moon's banner rippled above them, silver threads gleaming in the rising light. At the center knelt Rowan, shackled and silent. His once proud shoulders were bowed, his scent no longer commanding but hollow. Around him, the elders formed a circle, chanting softly in the ancient tongue, the song of severance. Darius's voice rang clear. "Rowan of Silverfang, you stand accused of betrayal, cruelty, and defiance of the moon's will. You broke your bond, defiled your mate, and led your pack to ruin." Rowan lifted his head, defiant to the end. "I did what was necessary. She was weak." The words died in his throat as Darius's power surged, shaking the air itself. "You will not speak her name again." The crowd murmured in awe. The Alpha's dominance pressed down like thunder. Even the wind seemed to bow. Elena's heart clenched, not out of pity, but out of recognition. Once she'd begged this man to love her. Now she watched as the goddess took back everything he'd stolen. The high priestess stepped forward, her silver robes trailing over the stones. She raised her hand, voice echoing like a bell. "By decree of the moon, the mark of Beta is revoked." Flames flared from her palm, a blinding white fire. Rowan screamed as the mark burned from his neck, the scent of scorched skin filling the air. When it was done, he collapsed, shaking, breath ragged. "Let him live," Elena said quietly. "Death is mercy. Let him feel what emptiness truly means." The priestess nodded once. "So it shall be." Rowan's eyes, once full of arrogance, met hers one last time. "You'll regret this," he rasped. Elena's reply was soft. "I already did. Now I'm free." Celine was brought forward next, trembling. Her once golden hair was tangled, her beauty dimmed. She clutched Rowan's arm, whispering, "Please, sister." Elena's voice held no hatred, only truth. "You made your choice, Celine. May the cold teach you what warmth truly was." The priestess lifted her hand again. "You are exiled beyond the northern ridge, never to return." As the guards led them away, the sun rose higher, its light burning away the last shadow of her past. For the first time, Elena felt the weight lift. The past was gone. The judgment was complete. Chapter 20. The Crowning of the True Luna. The night of her marking came beneath a full, radiant moon. The air shimmered with silver light, the entire valley gathered beneath the sacred oak, the tree said to touch the heavens. Wolves from both packs stood shoulder to shoulder, awaiting the ceremony that would unite them. Elena stood at the center, draped in a gown of pale silk and fur. Her hair glowed like gold under the moonlight, and the faint curve of her belly was visible beneath the fabric. The whispers of the crowd swelled and fell like waves. "She's the chosen one. The Barren wolf. No longer barren. The Luna of balance." When Darius approached, silence rippled outward. He wore black ceremonial armor trimmed in silver, his presence dark and commanding. Yet when he looked at her, there was only reverence. He stopped before her and went down on one knee. "Elena," he said, voice steady. You were forged by pain, but you rose by faith. Before the moon, I claim you as my fated Luna, not for what you were told you couldn't be, but for what you became. Her breath trembled. And what am I, Darius? His smile was soft. Everything. The high priestess raised the ceremonial blade, dipping it into moonlight. Alpha Darius, will you mark your Luna with truth and loyalty? I will. He drew her close, his breath warm against her skin. His fangs grazed her neck, then sank in, sharp and sure. The pain bloomed into light. Elena gasped as energy surged through her veins, a pulse of silver fire that bound them together. The crowd dropped to one knee as the moon flared overhead, bathing them in divine glow. When he pulled back, the mark shimmered, a crescent wrapped in flame. The symbol of eternal union. Darius whispered against her skin. You are mine under the moon, and I am yours beyond it. Tears glistened in her eyes. Then let the world see what love made whole. Cheers erupted, echoing into the mountains. Wolves howled in harmony, their cries carrying the song of renewal. In that moment, Elena felt it completely. Wholeness, purpose, peace. The girl who once prayed for death was now the Luna of two packs, her heart crowned with destiny. Chapter 21. The Night of Renewal. The celebration burned long into the night. Torches blazed around the great square, where wolves from Silverfang and Blackridge danced side by side for the first time in decades. Music rose into the air, drums, laughter, and the howl of unity. Elena watched from the balcony, the cool breeze brushing her face. Below, the banners of both packs fluttered side by side. For once, there was no rivalry, no division, just peace. Darius joined her, his arms sliding around her waist. You've brought something even I couldn't, he said softly. She tilted her head against his shoulder. And what's that? Hope. Her heart fluttered. It wasn't just me. He kissed her hair. No, but it began with you. Down below, the high priestess stepped forward, her voice carrying across the courtyard. Hear the moon's decree. The crowd quieted. When the Barren wolf bears the Alpha's heirs, the packs shall know balance once more. Two as one. Light and shadow bound by destiny. A murmur swept through the wolves, reverent and awed. Elena's eyes filled with tears. The prophecy, Darius nodded. It was always about you. She turned to him, smiling through the tears. No, it was about us, all of us who refused to let cruelty define us. Below, the wolves lifted their heads, howling together, a sound of rebirth. Elena felt the energy pulse through the land itself. The borders between packs shimmered faintly in the moonlight, dissolving into something new. The night of renewal had begun. And as she leaned into Darius's embrace, her mark pulsing softly in time with his heartbeat, she knew the goddess wasn't done yet. She was just beginning to weave a new legend, one born not of shame, but of love, strong enough to rewrite fate. Chapter 22. The Birth of the Heirs. The night of their birth arrived beneath the fullest moon she had ever seen. Its silver light spilled over the fortress like liquid blessing, washing the walls, the floors, even the air with peace. The scent of pine and rain drifted through the open windows. Elena lay in the moon chamber, breath sharp, heart pounding. The healers whispered prayers in the ancient tongue, their voices rising and falling with each contraction. Darius knelt beside her, his hand locked around hers. Breathe, he murmured. I'm here. Always here. She tried to smile, but another wave of pain tore through her, raw and wild. Her wolf surged beneath her skin, not from fear, but instinct. Through the haze, she saw the moonlight bend, as though the goddess herself leaned close to witness. Almost there, Luna, the healer said. A cry broke the silence, high and fierce, echoing through the chamber. The first pup. The healer lifted the tiny child swaddled in white linen, her small hands glowing faintly with silver light. "A girl," she breathed, "strong and perfect." Elena sobbed in relief. Moments later, another cry followed, deeper, louder. The second pup, a boy, his skin warm with the same soft glow. The room stilled, even the flames bowed low. The healer turned, awe trembling in her voice. The prophecy. It's true, they're blessed by the moon herself. Darius's eyes glistened as he took both infants into his arms, his massive frame trembling with reverence. "Our children," he whispered, then looked at Elena, his voice breaking. "Our miracle." Tears slipped down her cheeks as she touched their tiny faces. They were warm, alive, radiant with something more than mortal. "Do you feel it?" she whispered. "The moon's presence?" Darius nodded. "She's here, watching." Outside, the packs howled together, not in war, not in mourning, but in worship. Because of that night, the Barren Luna of legend became the mother of destiny. Chapter 23. The prophecy remembered by morning. The fortress had turned into a temple. Every corridor glowed with candles. Wolves knelt wherever they could, their heads bowed in reverence. The high priestess arrived draped in moon-white silk, her eyes bright with tears. She approached Elena's bedside slowly, her voice trembling. The goddess has fulfilled her promise. And now, the verse forgotten must be spoken again. The chamber fell silent. The priestess lifted her staff, and her voice rose like a hymn. When the barren wolf bears the alpha's heirs, balance shall heal the land of tears. Moon and shadow, heart and flame, the goddess will rise in the Luna's name. The air shimmered. The walls themselves seemed to breathe. Elena felt warmth surge through her mark, a pulse of light that spread from her heart to the infant sleeping beside her. The same light rippled through Darius's chest, his mark glowing in response. The priestess smiled through her tears. "Your union didn't just mend hearts, it mended the earth. Look." She gestured toward the balcony. Beyond the glass, the forests of both territories, once scarred and barren, were blooming again. Rivers ran clear, the scent of new grass rising in the air. The land itself had healed. Darius turned to Elena, wonder softening his fierce expression. "You did this." She shook her head gently. "No, we did. The moon just used our love to remind the world what mercy looks like." He took her hand and kissed it, his voice rough. "Then may mercy never leave us." As the wolves outside bowed to the reborn light, Elena realized the truth the goddess had whispered all along. Her pain was never a punishment. It was preparation. Every scar, every tear, every humiliation had led to this. The rebirth of a kingdom through love. Chapter 24. The Mother of Destiny. The dawn came soft and gold, touching every stone of Blackridge with new life. Elena stood on the grand balcony wrapped in Darius's cloak, the twin pups cradled in her arms. The wind lifted her hair, carrying the scent of pine, milk, and moonlight. Below, thousands of wolves filled the courtyard, Silverfang and Blackridge side by side, heads bowed. When they looked up, the chants began. Luna Elena, Luna of the moon. The sound rolled through the mountains, echoed by the forests beyond. Darius stepped behind her, his hands resting gently on her shoulders. "They're not just ours," he murmured. "They belong to every wolf who ever lost hope." She smiled faintly, watching the crowd. "Then we'll lead them with hope." He wrapped his cloak tighter around her, his breath warm against her ear. "And love." The twins stirred softly, one gripping her finger, the other sighing in sleep. Elena looked to the horizon where the rising sun met the fading moon and felt something deep within her settle. She wasn't the outcast anymore. Not the barren she-wolf, not the broken mate. She was the mother of destiny, the living proof that even from ruin the moon could craft miracles. As the chants grew louder, she whispered a prayer. "Thank you, Mother Moon, for making me wait long enough to find the right beginning." Darius's hand found hers. Their marks pulsed in unison, silver threads glimmering beneath their skin. And as the first light of day crowned them both, the goddess's whisper carried through the wind. Love was the miracle all along. The wolves below lifted their heads and howled in one voice, an anthem of rebirth that echoed into eternity. Elena smiled through her tears, heart full, soul at peace. The woman they once called Barren had not just given birth to heirs. She had given birth to a new world,